that prayer encapsulates a lot of what Mahayana Buddhism is all about. So, as I've said before, we go for lots of refuges. We've over our many lifetimes actually, we've sought refuge in all sorts of things, unsatisfactorily, to no avail. Otherwise we'd be completely happy now. We'd have enlightened minds and we'd have no problems. So our normal refuges are not satisfactory. They might be sort of temporarily, bring some happiness, but not in the long run. So we go for refuge. The refuge is in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly is usually the ordained ones, the people who are practicing the Dharma, the Dharma is the teachings, and the Buddha has the ability to. The Buddha has achieved enlightenment, all-knowing, omniscient wisdom and enlightenment. And there's lots of Buddhas. That's sort of why I liked Buddhism, because, like in the Christian thing, which I was brought up in, you couldn't become a god. But in Buddhism, you can have an enlightened mind. It takes a lot of work and it's very far down the track. But one can attain that because there have been others, lots of others, who've attained an awakened mind, an enlightened mind. So as I was talking about last week, that prayer in Tibetan has the word Sangye. Sangye means a Buddha, means awakened mind. An awakened mind is also a mind, a person who wants to achieve enlightenment, so for the sake of other sentient beings. That's the key, for the sake of other sentient beings. So Sangye means having attained all the qualities, like love and compassion and wisdom and all the qualities of an awakening mind. And Janchub, there's a Geshe here called Janchub. You ask them what their names mean in English and they're not too sure. Anyway, Janchub means someone who's abandoned all the negative qualities, as I said last week. So those words mean an enlightened mind. So last week I talked about what we have to abandon. What is this? What has one with an enlightened mind abandoned? Well, obviously it's having abandoned negativities and disturbing states of mind, or obstructions, things that obstruct us from becoming enlightened. So that's what they've abandoned. I talked about the 10 non-virtues last week, which is just briefly to avoid no killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, which is really like adultery or sleeping with other people's partners, or doing any sexual activity that's going to upset others and oneself. And then we had of 10 non-virtues of the speech is lying and slandering other people, harsh speech, and idle gossip, which is what we do a lot of, even though it's a minor thing, sort of compared to killing. And then of the mind, there is covetousness, which is pretty old-fashioned, but means, grasping, craving, wanting. And then wrong views, which are like not really believing in, things like the possibility of liberation, not really believing in karma, because if you don't believe in some sort of karma, then you're likely to just do whatever, negative things, So, and then there's another one. There's harmful thought. So anyway, so this week I thought I'd talk about other things to abandon. So and then in the other weeks talk about things to adopt. So we have these positive and negative qualities. Positive qualities are obviously love and compassion and wisdom and patience and kindness, all positive qualities that we are aiming to attain. Not just, occasionally, sort of in a long term, like in our minds, have our minds full that are not interrupted by negative thoughts. Negative qualities are, obviously, we all know those. They're the three poisonous minds, which are anger, attachment, and ignorance. Now, it's not ignorance. It's not the ignorance of not knowing how a TV works, or not knowing how an aeroplane works, or not knowing how a computer works. It's ignorance of how we exist and how phenomena exist. So, and that is the basis of anger and attachment and all the other negative qualities. So we're trying to abandon negative qualities in order to attain a sort of clear, enlightened mind. So these other negative qualities, like they're also called afflictions, mental afflictions. So we're afflicted with these anger, attachment, and ignorance. Why are they all? Oh, and then there's the 6 delusions. And I mentioned the 10 non-virtues. The delusions are anger, attachment, ignorance, pride, doubt, wrong views again, and there must be one other. I'll think about it. So we don't want, why we are habituated towards all this negative stuff. It sort of comes up automatically, we're always sort of walking down the street or wherever, what are we doing? We're always making judgments, sort of, or being critical, criticising, or feeling negative, or we're sort of habituated to different degrees. So the aim is really to be aware of what's going on in our mind, so that we're not just caught up in being angry or attached to things, but to sort of be aware and to really eventually not have those sorts of intrusive thoughts occurring. And it is possible to do that. And attachment, just briefly, I will talk about them later after we do some meditating. Attachment, people think, well, what's wrong with that? Having stuff, having things. We all like to have nice things. We expected to give up everything. And when I was first following Dharma teachings, a lot of hippies would, kind of give up everything, think they had to give up everything. But no, you don't. It's not the having the things, it's the way it disturbs us. So if the thing, something gets old and, no longer desirable or no longer attractive, we sort of, abandon it, or we can get upset. If the car gets a dent and starts to look old, it doesn't give us the same sort of feeling. It's the way it affects us. For all these things, it's the way it affects our mind. And for attachment, what we do is we distort, because our mind is sort of distorted in a way when we perceive objects. We embellish the qualities of the objects so that they appear more desirable than they really are. And because we don't really, we see the object or the thing or the person in a relationship, we see them as giving us all the things we need and giving us perfect happiness. But as soon as any little thing goes wrong and you can't stand the way they eat or the way they do certain mannerisms, then we realise that that object didn't have that. And we were projecting, imagining onto that object. So it's attachment. Anyway, I'll talk a bit more about it. But we'll do I'll just talk briefly about meditation. Meditation, as I said, is about developing a very clear, aware mind. So it's about training. It takes a lot of training to get to the very higher levels, but it's about holding on to, but not in a grasping way, holding on to a positive state of mind. Now, in terms of the breathing meditation, that's like holding on to, well, not holding. In Tibetan, the word is gom, which means to hold, is to experience a clear state of mind, so that that's more for single-pointed concentration. We just concentrate single-pointedly on the object. And then once we attain a sort of clear, calm and stable mind, we can then analyse the truth of certain concepts. And so analysing that becomes what they call a realisation, is where you can fully know, understand, integrate certain concepts like, compassion, love, patience, all those things. And so if one meditates, one can do that. Easier, better. All right, so we can do some meditation. So we'll do some breathing meditation. We do breathing meditation because the breath is a neutral object. Obviously not a negative object, but it's neutral, it's always there. As long as we're alive, it's always there. It's always with us. So one can always meditate whatever one's doing. So if you find intrusive thoughts when you're doing breathing, focusing on your breath going in and out of your nose, so you can either focus on the air going from about here, outside your nose, to in, down to your lungs, or you can focus on your chest going in and out, whatever suits. And if you find you're getting distracted, you can count one inhalation and one exhalation as one. So, but just trying to focus on the breath lightly, not getting worried because of intrusive thoughts, because that's what we do normally all the time. That's what we're always doing, thinking about stuff. And so what we're trying to do is suspend that, but not to worry and get upset. That'd be really counterproductive. All right, so the position is to really be relaxed and to keep your back straight, preferably, so that the channels, the energy goes through you. And to sort of have your head on a sort of an angle 45 degrees, sort of looking down. Your eyes not closed because, well, they can be if that's easier. Closed because you might fall asleep. Not too far open because you might get distracted. And then the arms relaxed by your side with your hands one on top of the other. Whatever's comfortable, really. So we talk about our motivation, our reason for doing it, because they say that your motivation sets the sort of action for the whole procedure. So our motivation can be from just, I want to practice meditating up to I want to meditate in order to develop an awakened mind for the benefit of all sentient beings. So we focus on the breath. It will be just, I won't be leading it really. So focusing on the breath. Just visualize the breath going in and out. And if you feel any tension, just let it go. Oh, that's good. Can wake up now. So we are trying to develop our concentration, basically, and to experience the sort of clarity of our mind, and also to realise how much stuff goes on thinking. And very wise, recommend to try that, for a few minutes each day. It's good to do it each day because then we forget, and it sets up, a habit, not a bad habit. So recommended to do that. And the aim is to sort of, as I said, develop concentration, because once one develops concentration, then one can really develop what we call penetrative insight, which leads to realizations. And once one has a realization of a certain topic, then that doesn't really go away. One's mind is much stronger. So we can have realizations of impermanence, love, compassion. So it strengthens and deepens those qualities within ourselves. So back to talking about the things we have to, we're recommended to abandon, to, get rid of, to work on. I was saying that I think they boil down to anger and attachment. So anger, obviously, we experience that to different degrees, to varying degrees, from sort of irritability, slight irritability, to sort of quick to anger, short-tempered. And that's all really about misconceiving ourselves and the person. Usually it's a person. We can get angry at inanimate things, but usually it's a person. So we think that person is the cause of our unhappiness. The person who's upset us, the person who says something, upsetting, mean, we think that they're the cause of our unhappiness. Now, are they? Or are we the cause of our unhappiness by getting angry? Obviously, this is a very, developed form of patience, which in Buddhist terms, patience is not getting angry, not even, not just controlling it and pretending, which is okay to do, not just thinking I'm not, going to get angry, but actually really not. So with anger, there are different ways of, different points you can look at. You can look at how the person is not inherently, really bad or everything. They're not always like that. We're not always like that. How we're misconstruing that, what the person is doing. And it's not the person, it's not the sort of, it's maybe it's the weapon, the stick that hurts you if you're hit, or it's the words, it's not the person. Also, getting angry is with someone causes them to be upset. And we don't want to upset other people. That's not our aim here. So the other person gets upset, the other person reacts, the other person creates negative karma, and so it goes. So that involves, having some sort of insight and patience and compassion, of not wanting, or realising that that person's acting under sort of delusion. No, they're acting under delusion. It's like Buddhists always sort of revert back to the mother, like the love of a mother for her children is unconditional. And so in terms of, caring for anyone, other people, so we don't want them to react. A little bit about also, what else? They say that our I, in terms of getting angry or getting annoyed, our I is misconstrued. We think, that I don't like that. I am not putting up with that. I'm not tolerating that. Now this I, under analysis, can't really be found. They do this sort of analysis of where is the I. I mean, the I am sitting here, and I'm talking. That I, that relative I is true. But the I that gets upset or even feels elated when good things happen, that I is really just a mental construction. It's not a real thing. So we need to look at that when we get angry, if we get anger, and the fact that the object doesn't inherently have those annoying qualities. They're annoying because we think they're annoying. They're annoying to us. So there's lots to think about with that. And then the other thing I was talking about, attachment. I remember I was sitting here in the Gompa and there was someone sitting in front of me, facing this way, a young guy, and he had on a T-shirt which said, "He who dies with the most toys wins." And I thought, that's a good one, That's, I think that's maybe all our attitude to a certain extent. Well, not all of us here, of course, but so with attachment, it's the same sort of analysis. It's like we embellish that thing that, it has all those qualities. That thing is going to make us happy to have it. And it's going to make us, really make us happy, because we lack something or other. And we embellish the qualities of that thing. And then throughout our lives we've realised that those things which we, had to have, thought about, craved, wanted, for how long, I don't know, that now we can barely, if we look back, can barely remember what they were. So the objects don't have those qualities which we, project, with which we embellish them. Also, attachment or desire just leads to more desire. It does not satisfy. It just leads to more desire. The next thing, and the next thing. So I'm not saying, as I said before, I'm not saying we, have to go around with just a sort of T-shirt on or in the snow. It's just to look at what happens in our mind, to examine, how we are feeling about something. So, how we are we exaggerating and embellishing, wanting things? So that's like, as I say, it only leads to more dissatisfaction. And there were some things I wrote down. They say the objects are contaminated because they don't inherently have those qualities. They're contaminated because they occur through causes and conditions. And they are only really labelled because of the parts that they contain. So that's why they're contaminated, which leads to a lot of, and that it's in the nature of suffering, and that leads to a lot of dissatisfaction. The object is not truly existent, it's illusory, which is the same as it doesn't have those qualities that we think it does to satisfy us. And it's very uncertain. Anyway, yes, and attachment leads to other qualities such as possessiveness, anger, jealousy, pride. And it keeps us from achieving meaningful, like enlightenment and that, being attached all the time to things and wanting, prevents us from attaining, the qualities we want. It's a distraction, totally. All right, we could do another 10-minute meditation, or more of an analytic meditation. So if we sit in the posture that's comfortable, and we do a few deep breaths. And think of our motivation. Our motivation is to look at attachment, look at whether what you hear, what you read, whether that is true, whether you find that, is valuable information, or, to look at, and we're going to look at dealing with, understanding attachment and dealing with it. In order to develop an enlightened mind. So think of when you have felt some attachment, some strong desire for someone, a person, in a relationship maybe, or an object of attachment. And think of how that your feeling of attachment is constant. Not letting go. So, how does one experience the I that is so attached, has to have that person or thing? How it's such a distraction. The mind wanting to possess. And then we think of the object, the thing, the person. Did they have the qualities we thought would make us eternally happy? or the thing, did it make us, did it have those qualities we were hankering for? And has an object in the past or a person sustained the reason? So then just determine to try and get a clear picture of that when one feels attachment in the future to how your mind is craving and how the object doesn't have those inherent qualities. All right, and then we can dedicate merits of our meditation previously and now, which means that means to sort of, well, it means to, want to solidify that, like to, we dedicate it for the benefit of all beings as well, and to our development of positive qualities. So I was going to say, there was something else, like the difference between love and attachment is like if you have a close friend, someone you really like, someone, a friend, partner, someone, really close friend who you consider a close friend. If they say something mean or nasty or turn on you, what do you do? If you get annoyed or angry with them, then you don't love them. You don't love them in the sort of true universal sense of love. Your feeling for them is mixed with attachment. And attachment is about making me happy, sort of. So that's why, so if someone, it's like, once again, the mother, the mother doesn't you do get pretty angry, I suppose, with your kids, but with a child, you're forgiving and, but so that's just the difference often between love, that if you get really, really annoyed with someone who turns on you, who you consider, who you've considered that you love dearly. So anyway, so we all need to practice concentration, patience, all sorts of things. So any questions or any doubts, anything? No? Questions? Yes. Emptiness.
Emptiness.
Yeah.
Where the hearing, everything is gone. But there is a light, a real light coming up from my statue.
Yeah.
Coming up, a real light, ray, out in white.
Light.
Light ray.
Yeah, that, wow. That sounds really good.
Coming up on the statue.
The Buddha.
And that light turned into a white light.
Yeah.
A very, very bright light.
Yeah, well...
Still right in front of me, stay there. What should I do? Shall I merge with the light?
I think that sounds...
Or should I invite the light to dissolve the body? Or should I just keep on meditate and just look at the light? What should I do?
I think with the light, I think try to see it as the white light, you know. Yeah, the white light of the Buddha. Yeah, whether you draw it in or whether you just experience it.
Okay, the first time it came, you from the red light to the white light.
Yeah.
And just stay there right in front of me, just at this distance.
Yeah.
Easily touch it. At the other time, I know it's one of the deities. Could be one of my, maybe it's my deity.
Yes. They say, yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. They say with the deities, the white light...
I may ask to absorb my body if I can.
Yes.
My deity. But that time I'm not very sure. It turns from rainbow light to a rainbow into the light. And twice happened. The second time it happened, it came and it just disappeared. And it just either that something like itself, it looks like something like it appears with me and it just feels off.
Oh, well, that's good.
It goes into the body
Yeah.
or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the thing is that but during that time, I stopped practicing for more than 1 year because I don't know what is the next step I should go.
Well, I think it's good. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's good to experience. It's good to experience the white light. Light is good. Yeah, light. And with the deity meditations, they say white light here, red at the throat, and blue at the heart. Yeah. Yeah. That's very good. Yeah. I think very good. I think very good. I'll have to finish here now. Yeah. It comes from there are meditations you can do to get the light. Yeah. 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 Okay. All right. You and I can talk about that later, but in the meantime, I will let everybody go if they want to have a cup of tea. There's tea in the dining room. Oh, yes, another question.
I was going to say that, when we talk about like attachment and getting angry, I kind of related that to like impermanence.
Yes.
Angry when something isn't permanent and it's like...
Yes, of course, yes. That's what we do. We think that's another way. There are those different sort of methods. You can see, the object as this and the I as that. And then you can see the impermanence. Yeah, of course. Because we, a friend of mine was telling me that she was getting really upset about her husband. Oh, she's old like myself. Her husband was getting sick and, had very good health, and he wasn't the same as he used to be. And she was getting really angry. And that is the impermanence. That's one example. But yes, if you can realise or think about impermanence, that is really good. That is like, that things are not permanent, but they're also subtly not permanent. like they're changing every sort of second. There's a subtle impermanence which we don't really see. So, yes, you know, to see, and we get upset, like, about things that we think that we feel they're permanent or they should be. Yeah, and that they have those qualities. They're not going to change, you know. Like the car's going to be brand new all the time, or whatever. I use the car analogy because it reminds me of my husband. He gets upset about the dint or anything. I can see it in him, but not in me. So, anyway, thank you everybody for being such a good group. I'll be back next week to talk about what we should adopt. The things like, you can hear me, can't you, without this? Oh, okay. Through the analysis of, you're saying how can we detach?
How can we detach?
It doesn't happen immediately, it doesn't happen spontaneously. It's through those series of analysis of looking at the object, looking at in the past, have things satisfied us? You know, have they had those qualities, and looking at the I, how we feel, how we get all we feel. So it's a process to go, you know, to go through and to sort of understand, to try and understand it, not to be just caught up in it. You know, like if you're caught up in it, you don't see that it's there's anything bad. It's the hardest, one of the hardest things to overcome, attachment, because you don't think there's anything really wrong with having stuff. But to go through the process is to go through the analysis, you know, that analysis. And to be aware what's going on in your mind. You know, like, are you craving, wanting something? Are you annoyed that you didn't get it? Are you going to go and steal it? You know. Are you going to fall out with someone? You know, so how are you, and just trying to be, if you're aware of it, you're more likely to see that, oh, that's not, you know, beneficial to me. You're taking notes. Yes.
It's interesting, what comes up for me is the focus on objects, and I think it's not objects at all. It's like someone has the object, but the object's not really the thing that they're attached to.
Yeah.
It's other people's perception of that, like people admire the wealthy man, or, you know,
Well, yes.
the one with most, so it's got nothing to do with objects.
Yeah.
It's all about people and your perceptions of how they feel. So it's all about yourself.
Yes, yes.
But people keep saying they're attached to objects. It's got nothing to do with the object.
Well, some people do feel, you know, they might go and do something, you know, but I agree, it's about renown too, isn't it? Like what people think. Yeah.
And there's an actual progression with things with age and things. It's like it's all right to say that your age is if you don't have it, you know what I mean? But once you're there, it's a realisation, and the older you get, it's like the clearer it does become. A lot of things like good health means more to us than
Yes,
wealth.
yes.
Whereas at 14, you know, we can perceive things that way. So there's a natural progression.
Well, yes, I think so.
Progress, but it's just a bit about
Being seen to have, you know, the $500,000 BMW. Yeah, yeah. Well, to a lesser degree, we do that. Maybe. You know, we dress...
Yeah, that's a degree.
Yeah, or we dress nicely, or we, you know, we don't want to be seen as, you know, some bum or something. You know, someone who is regarded as, you know, lesser. You know. Yeah, good point. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks again.